All right, welcome back to the Unnamed Cybersecurity Podcast. I'm Chris. There's Bob and Carl's with me today. Matt
guys.
again has been kidnapped. This dude gets kidnapped way too often. It's kind of scary.
He knows
but look-
things. He
I don't
knows
know.
things,
Who-
and
I
people
don't-
don't want them to be known.
I don't know what he knows, but like maybe I don't want to know this
I
stuff.
don't want to
'cause
know
he's
what he
kinda-
knows, but apparently
Yeah.
there's a lot of people who want to
His
know.
presence was required, huh?
Yeah, I think this time it was something that he didn't anticipate, and yeah. But hey, we're in Cybersecurity Awareness Month, full swing, right?
Yep.
Let's start off with like, what are you guys doing for Cybersecurity Awareness Month? Like, what are you doing content wise? Like, letting people know what's going on.
Content wise, I'm actually doing some live events, and next Friday I'm talking at a Chamber of Commerce specifically about cybersecurity awareness and really helping them understand some of the risks that they might not be thinking about. We got some emails going out too, but that's the bulk. The big thing is really getting in front of people and saying hi.
I'm going down to a street corner in Manhattan with about 24 donuts and a street sign saying, "Can I tell you about cybersecurity?"
Man,
Knocking on doors, spreading the good word.
I'm afraid of where that was going. Whew. That almost went to a spot that I don't think we're allowed to
It
broadcast.
wasn't there, buddy. It never went there. The train was never going there. You just
Okay.
thought the location was somewhere.
All right.
You got to
Well,
change the map.
Well, I'm screwing with my mic because I can see it in the bottom of the video. So what we're doing is some interesting stuff. I took time in September to map out 31 attack scenarios, and I got a little lazy the last couple of days. I haven't posted, but I have 31 attack scenarios. I'm making videos leveraging AI to kind of like make these dramatic sequences that we're posting.
Cool.
Kind of cool and kind of interesting stuff. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna host a live event towards the end of the month, and we're starting pushing on that. So it's gonna be a little tabletop live action event with people in the crowd. So it's gonna be interesting to kind of see how that goes. It's kind of like a concept that we were working on, trying to get more people there, but like really just trying to prove the concept so we can kind of go live with this. But enough Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I'm sure people that are watching this have probably heard way too much recently about that because everybody and their brother and sister and everything else in between is talking about it. Let's
pumpkin spice latte.
Oh man, don't get me started with pumpkin spice. One, I don't like pumpkin, so that kind of goes the wrong way. But let's open this one up with this UK hacker that decided that, hey, business email compromise. I'm not going to steal any information except for earnings reports, and then I'm going to profit $3.75 million.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. Right?
So the guy compromised the email accounts and was basically just extracting and taking data and went and bought stocks with it.
Exactly. Basically, the scary part about this is so he's a UK national, and he got charged by the Department of Justice. Right. He's facing up to like 20 years in prison and a $5 million fine.
20. It's 2 counts of 20 years.
Oh yeah, because it's wire fraud and some
wire fraud and that, yeah.
And it could be a $5 million fine. He only profited $3.75 million, but he can get a $5 million fine. So maybe not the smartest thing in the world, but like between 2019 and 2020, he basically gained access to corporate executives on their Microsoft 365 accounts. It was only 5 public companies, but it was in advance of at least 14 earnings announcements.
Wow.
How did they not know? This dude was auto forwarding rules, like forwarding stuff to himself. Like they just didn't know. It shocks me to this day that this is something, and I know this is like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, but like even then, they didn't know that this was happening. They didn't see the weird logins.
Nobody looking.
Yeah. I mean,
Microsoft's got the accounts out there. People think they can just sign up. It's easy to sign up for. People make a few changes. They get their email going, and
these are public companies.
No one looks or thinks about it again.
They're public companies.
I know.
They're huge. maybe not huge, but like big enough. I mean, clearly the guy made 3.75 million, so it had to be big enough companies that trading that an earnings announcement would sway the trade one way or the other, right? So,
there's still Microsoft 365 accounts that there's lots of accounts out there that don't have even have multi-factor authentication on. Let anything else go on, and now Microsoft's putting the hammer down and saying at least let's lock down the administrative ones.
Yeah,
that is true. Stuff that should happen like years ago, but hey, it's something. Again, quick tip, everybody. You have Microsoft 365, you have Google Workspace. Please just turn on MFA. It's not bulletproof.
MFA on everything.
That's
I mean, it's like hot sauce. Put it on everything. You're gonna, put it on your email, whether it's Microsoft or Gmail.
Yeah.
One thing people should be putting it on is their paywall to their phone systems, whether that's your cell phone or your office phone, because those get hijacked as well. As a matter of fact, if they get into your phone system, now they got the text messages that come back for the bank approvals.
Yeah. There's a really cool, maybe we'll talk about this in the future. We've talked about SIM swapping before where they steal the SIM, but there's kind of a vulnerability in our phone system in general with the way that things are switched, that if you can work outside the country, you can pay somebody to actually give you access into an account. So maybe we'll talk about that in the future. But for now, MFA and everything, if you can. If you can't, make sure you have a nice, long, secure password. And if that's not allowed, I guess just find somebody different.
So right before I went away for the weekend, put my phone out, and the SIM died. I was like, "Oh, great!"
Oh, the SIM died?
It said invalid, bad SIM, and I'm like, "Really?"
Okay.
Oh, I moved it. This is probably way too much information. I moved to eSIM a couple years ago.
I'm on eSIM for a while.
Yeah. So, let's move on to something a little more interesting, I guess. I mean, somebody making $3.75 million, man, but going to prison and getting $5 million, that's pretty interesting. But there's a report that the Wall Street Journal put out last week that apparently the U.S. wiretap system has been hacked from a Chinese linked hacker group called Salt Typhoon. And this one, there's limited details, but it's pretty nuts. Yeah, no kidding. It's Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen. And a lot of people won't know who Lumen is, but Lumen runs a lot of the backbone of the internet. It's just a company, you don't know who they are, but they're majorly involved in the internet. And yeah, the government has this law that if the U.S. has a request for communications data and they have a court order, they get access to it. Well, that system apparently was hacked, and Verizon, AT&T, and Lumen, they're not really making any comments about this. Senior officials have warned that this is the economic and national security implications of China's like multi-pronged spying operation is serious, and this is kind of highlighting that about just how dangerous it is. Yeah, because they think they were just looking for like intelligence information. They're just doing intelligence gathering, but what else could they be looking for?
Well, the one report I saw said it was Chinese government linked hackers.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, this has got to be state sponsored hacking attack. So, Microsoft has been looking at them too for other things. The same group, but this is kind of wild.
There's no end in sight.
Well, they said in like September that I think that it was either them or another Chinese-based hacking group, because there's like Volt Typhoon 2, which is another one. They like using the Typhoon name for like these Chinese-linked APTs or advanced persistent threat actors. But there was one that they hacked 200,000 routers and cameras and other internet-connected consumer devices. People probably don't even know this is happening. So this is serious security implications, and it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, from a standpoint of like, what did they actually gain access to and how long were they there? Because it sounds like we're not entirely sure how long they were in these systems.
Here we go again.
Yeah. So let's let's just keep this fear trading going. I'm just kidding. A big one that came up over the weekend. Actually, I think it was late last week. The Financial Times newspaper published a piece from Ann Neuberger, who's the U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor for Cyber and Emerging Technologies. And basically, she warned that ransomware is wreaking havoc around the world.
Well, that's not news.
That's
okay. True.
Every day the sun comes out. News at 11.
Yeah. Truth.
But yeah, it was interesting.
You may not see it, but it
was interesting to see that piece where okay, so now the insurance companies, because insurance companies are paying ransoms, that's funding the cyber war.
Yeah. And she wrote specifically that it's incentivizing and fueling cybercrime because of the payments. And she went one step further, and this is where it gets real interesting. And I'll quote her. I guess it's kind of a quote, but she basically said that it could play a constructive role. Insurance companies could play a constructive role by requiring and verifying implementation of effective cybersecurity measures as a condition of underwriting its policies. So what she's saying is insurance companies, it's not just a questionnaire anymore. It's not just you're attesting to things. You now have to, if this goes through, you'd have to prove what you're doing.
Well,
to get underwritten.
We've already seen that on some cases, and cases that actually wound up in court. The traveler's case where they couldn't prove everything that they were doing, they got their claim denied. So this is actually really good news if it goes forward.
Yeah. Well, they're not saying whether there's going to be a lawful requirement to do this. This is like a recommendation. This is an opinion piece that she wrote, but it does beg the question. Something that we've talked about before is how long before the compliance program of insurance companies really is you prove that you're doing what you say you're doing before they actually underwrite the policy. And that's what she's saying.
It's the new seatbelt law.
Yeah.
If they make it a law, I think this would have to go through like Congress, obviously make a law. But the insurance industry is really good at tweaking cyber insurance over the course of time. So maybe they do this without a law. Maybe they find out it reduces their risk by doing that. But also, and this is just me thinking aloud, kind of, cyber insurance companies probably don't want you to prove that you're doing the things that you say you're doing. Because
then they have to pay.
Right. So if they have a percentage, I'm sure they're probably looking at the data and probably understand that there's a percentage of companies out there that are just lying or providing misinformation on their attestation forms, and they're attesting to things that isn't true. So they know if they go to court, they're going to win, but they still get the premium. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Although they did say that there is 8 insurance industry bodies from around the world that have endorsed an almost identical guidance. So maybe it does happen. I mean, what do you guys think? Let us know, because let us know what you think about that. Like if you had to go through the insurance piece, because we talked before with some of the experts, and they don't make very much off cyber insurance policies in general. Even when they're making money, like the agents don't make that much money, so they don't know how to sell them and stuff like that. But this would increase the underwriting process a lot. Yeah. Like the length of time to actually get a policy done. So
I think it's good. Maturity in the market too. Really understanding what the risks are.
I think it's good for the industry. I think it's good for everybody, honestly. But where does that stop? Does that extend to when you do business with somebody that you have to prove that you have a security program?
You may see that down in the future. I mean, for those of you who remember, play along with me. I mean, I was of the age where, drunk driving initially was a nuisance offense. It was not it switched. It literally, when I was a kid growing up, my father was an attorney, and a big part of his business initially was getting people. It was almost like it was like a red light. the DWIs in the mid 70s, early 80s.
Yep.
And then at one point, MAD got involved, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and all of a sudden it went to that. Second time you're going to be looking at jail time, and third time it's a felony. So I'm not saying that's what's going to go down the pike, but we're getting to a point where the maturity, in the next 3 to 5 years, we might be looking at that. That may not be unrealistic.
That's a good point. And well, I think too, like for something like that, it'll probably happen at the government level first, or like certain industries. We've seen what they're doing kind of with regulation stuff like that, and like rules and stuff like where they'll kind of force that. But what about private industry?
Well, you're starting to see attorneys now. You're starting to see these, what they call the people when car crashes. I just forgot the name of them.
Personal injury
lawyers? Personal injury attorneys. Now they're starting to look at this as a potential to come after, companies for having individuals doing class actions. And so, that can be where everything starts to turn a corner because, unfortunately, I'm not promoting lawsuits. I'm not, but when they start happening, that starts to change behavior, unfortunately.
So when that happens, do we have to change the name from? It was really hard for me not to say ambulance chaser because obviously ambulance chasers. Ambulance chaser? Yeah. So what do we? So what new name will we go to?
At any bar.
Maybe the K1 chasers, huh?
Data privacy chaser. I don't know. That doesn't have a good ring to it. Somebody let us know. Like what would that be? Not to attack lawyers out there, but like there's a lawyer. He did a Super Bowl commercial a couple years ago here in Metro Detroit, and it was him chasing after an ambulance. So he was making fun of that whole thing. It was hilarious. So, own I guess like the stereotype of your industry, but yeah, it'd be interesting.
I don't remember where it was, but I did see an article this morning about an employee class action suit that they were suing their employer because because of a data breach. It was like $480,000 settlement or something. But this was it's a class of employees. So they're coming everywhere.
I mean, what was the town that got breached, and they hid it from the? Well, there's several that have gotten breached.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you the details, but it was the one where they hid the information from. There was a whistleblower, and he got threatened with jail time or something.
It's Columbus.
Was that Columbus? Yeah,
and then Columbus.
I think the Columbus Fire Department came after the town of Columbus because their records were exposed, and they're like, "Hey, wait a second, we're going to come after you for not handling our records correctly."
Cool. Anyway, guys, we're kind of rambling on here, so why don't we wrap this up and pick up next week on yet another week of cyber threats.
Yes.
Well, I'm sure we'll have about 15 stories we have to pare down before we talk. So if you're doing anything special for Cybersecurity Awareness Month in your company, let us know. We can talk about it. It'd be kind of cool. If you're not doing anything, maybe it's an idea to start.
I'll come to your office with a box of donuts. Tell you all about cyber.
So if you're in California and you want Carl to drive all the way across the country,
you have to pay for the airfare for California.
That's not what he said the first time.
Metro New York area, a toll maybe, but I'll give you a couple of extra Boston creams for that.
There you go. Okay. On that note, have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.